Do you think the number of new religions is an indicator of greater tolerance in our society?
Well, it's certainly true that so-called new religions cannot appear in repressive regimes. Consequently, the fact that new religions, alternative groups flourish in democratic societies is probably a good indication. The difficulty sometimes is that some democracies are afraid to appropriately monitor what goes on. The issue of money's come up, for example. And it's very clear the groups have to make money. The issue is whether the making of money unduly benefits individuals. And what happens in so many, many groups is that the leaders live dramatically luxurious lifestyles, as has been said about Reverend Moon, often on the shoulders and backs of the members. In the early days, there was so much street fundraising. I talked to a former bodyguard at the Moon compound who talked about what the lifestyle was like. When he needed dental work, he had to go out and sell flowers. And
I'm a cancer survivor, and I have 2 artificial hips, and have faced a number of other challenges, all of them supported by my church when I didn't have my own insurance. Now, of course, I have a livelihood, I have insurance. We're a growing organization and getting established.
Let me ask Susan that same question about religious tolerance. Do you see a higher level of that?
I think
or not?
Religious pluralism is a very healthy sign in any society. And the fact that we have so many import religions, we have so many syncretic, combined religions, and that, a natural mystic or prophet can actually start a religion without being burned at the stake, I think that's a great sign.
In a society, too, that has considerable fears and has been through, as we mentioned, stories of, Jonestown and Koresh and the Solar Temple.
I've known so many new religions who've had to look at these problems which they didn't predict, like he mentions, people becoming too old to work. And they have meetings and they solve their problems and they set up new structures. And I think you have to have faith in people's common sense. I mean, just because they...
But, I mean, and do you just say about the ones that go terribly wrong and that are scary and that are damaging?
Yeah. Well, they're a tiny, tiny handful.
Do you see it that way, too, that it's really just not worth really worrying about?
It's just that these problems recur time and time again in different societies, different cultures, different historical periods. We see that that issues involving the care and health of children come up time and time again.
Well, then the question, I guess, also becomes how do you watch out for the ones that could be of danger without persecuting the ones that aren't?
I think recently in the United States, with the establishment of a faith-based initiative allowing religious organizations to receive government funds when performing social services, it became clear that every organization across the board is going to be evaluated by the same requirements, same standards, and that's fine. That should be fine.
Do you feel comfortable being judged by the U.S. government?
Absolutely. Our history of religious tolerance is one of our great strengths. The greatness of North America and the North American society is that our rule of law restrains the demons that often invade our human nature and our tendency to...
But it can't completely. It can't completely. I mean, there are lots of cults that, have run amok and, people have killed themselves.
I think all of us have the responsibility to educate ourselves. And our own organization is a very strong believer in dialogue. We've had increasingly higher level of contact with scholars such as Dr. Kent and many others. When that kind of direct contact is made possible, then I think there's a much more healthy examination, and I think it tends to be less judgmental as well.
But I mean, did your family go, woohoo, oh, you're SGI, that's good news, congratulations, or did they think, oh?
No, you mean my parents?
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously I didn't have children at the time because I was 18, but my parents were, they were watching to see what was going to happen, but they trusted me as well, and I was up front with them, and I was never asked to do anything unreasonable, to donate anything.
So if one of your kids came and said, I'm joining the Unification Church or Children of God,
Good question.
well, I'd look into it myself, and I'd want to go and have direct contact.
You take a breath. I mean, you think, oh,
I don't know. It depends.
I was raised a Unitarian, and I cherish my liberal religious upbringing. My parents, especially my mother, trusted the integrity that she'd raised me to have. When a deprogramming organization called my mom and asked for $10,000 to forcibly take me out, she said jokingly, "What makes you think I want him back?" And she told me about it. I mean, it was a joke. My father expressed great concern that I stopped school or this or that, and I've since gone on and finished college and done graduate work. And he said he felt Reverend Moon was sitting by a pool, drinking lemonade, and profiting from my suffering. I told my dad, I have the confidence now to build a strong, solid family, be a husband and a father. Everything I've gotten from Reverend Moon is already in the bank. And if he violates what he taught me, he's the loser. And I'm the only one of my 4 siblings with a working marriage and a successful family.
Now,
and
if your
my
son,
brothers
your
and sisters are
successful
great.
family, if your successful son comes home and says, okay, I'm, you know, SGI, that's for me, do you go, woo, cult?
Oh, I wouldn't approach it that way at all. I've tried to
So
raise
you don't think that's a cult? You don't think that's a cult?
No.
I
And
don't know. I don't. To be honest, you know, we hear these words flung around.
I think we've learned not to judge so quickly from what you hear.
I think that that's my whole point, is that whatever we're looking into, we have to go directly to the source. We don't go through secondary and tertiary sources, but we go directly and speak to the people who are directly involved, and then we find out for ourselves what it's all about. Maybe we don't see everything, but I think most
Do you think they're
people have got-
naive? That there is danger out there?
Again, I look at problems regarding society and problems regarding individuals. The state has a moral, indeed legal obligation to help protect people who cannot protect themselves. Consequently, issues about children, about medical care, about getting paid for the labor that one does in a particular group, all these are really crucial.
Do you think that's fair?
But Stephen,
Val?
you're using these.
Totally fair. I welcome it. And we are conform to laws, and you know, there's so many concepts that people have that are just erroneous. In the 5th chapter of Acts, St. Paul was on trial as a cult leader. They put him out of the room, and Gamaliel pointed out all the different kinds of leaders who'd come and gone and said, be careful what you do with these men, because if this thing is not of God, it's going to fall apart by itself. But if it's of God, nothing you do will stop it. In other words, historically, it'll prove what it's made of. If it's built on personality, somebody's strong, it'll wither away. If it's built on values and principles and is a benefit to its members and society, it'll prevail. And you might find yourself opposing God, is what he said.
Well, we're going to stop there and come back for some final thoughts from our hot seat guest, Stephen Kent, when we return.